That evening, the sky was painted with the soft orange glow of the setting sun behind the hills. Quiet neighborhood, our small house was filled with warmth. Renata, was preparing dinner in the kitchen. Accompanied by the gentle tunes of music from the radio, my son, Adrian, had just returned from university. There was a calm in the air, a nostalgic feeling that reminded me of the days when he was still a little boy. Adrian was now 21, far from the small child who used to hold my hand tightly, asking questions about the world. He had grown into a confident young man, though at times, it felt as if there was a distance between us. When dinner was ready, I called him from the living room. We sat together at the dining table, talking about his day, his friends, and his future plans. Yet, there was something in the way he looked at me that night, something that made me pause. Text Bawan? I tried to ignore it, blaming my imagination. After dinner, we decided to watch a movie. Together, a rare habit these days since he left for college. The living room felt cozy, with dim lighting and a soft couch. As the movie played, I occasionally glanced at him, marveling at how he had grown into a young man. But that night, there was something different in the way he interacted with me. When he shifted closer on the couch, I didn't think much of it until his hand touched mine. The touch felt strange, prompting me to quickly pull my hand away. "What's wrong, Mom?" he asked gently, his voice full of concern. "Nothing, dear. I'm just tired," I replied, trying to sound casual, but my heart was restless. Something had changed between us, something hard to explain. I decided to go to bed early, leaving him alone in the living room. The next morning, Adrian greeted me with a bright smile in the kitchen. He suggested we go hiking to our favorite hill, a place we often visited when he was little. At first, I hesitated, recalling the strangeness of the previous night, but I reminded myself that this was just a mother and son spending time together. The air on the hill was fresh, with a clear blue sky above. We talked about old memories and his plans for the future. But at moments, the silence between us felt heavier than usual. When we reached the top of the hill, Adrian stopped and looked at me. "Mom, you've always been there for me. I don't know what I'd do without you," he said seriously. I smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "You don't need to worry about that. I'm not going anywhere." But his gaze didn't waver. He stepped closer. "I mean it, Mom. You're more than just my mother. You everything to me." I froze, his words hanging in the air. "Adrian, I love you, but we have to keep this boundary. I'm your mother." He nodded, his eyes glistening with emotion. "I know. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." "We'll get through this," I said, trying to be firm yet gentle. I hugged him, hoping to convey that even though our relationship was evolving, he love between us as mother and son remained unshaken. On the way back home, we didn't talk much. I knew there was a lot to process, but I was determined to ensure our relationship returned to the path it should take. I am his mother and he is my son. No matter how challenging it might be, I would uphold that boundary for both our sakes. That night, I sat alone in the living room, flipping through an old photo album, looking at pictures of Adrian as a child. I felt both touched and wistful. I remembered the days when he was so innocent, full of laughter, and never hesitated to share anything with me. Time had changed so much. Now he was a grown man, with thoughts and emotions more complex than before. As a mother, I knew I had to remain a steady anchor for him. The next day, Adrian seemed calmer. We decided to spend time at the city park. There, we chatted casually about various topics, from favorite books to his plans after graduation. I felt relieved to see him back to his usual self, sitting under the shade of a large tree. We let the gentle breeze accompany our conversation. "Mom, thank you for always being there for me," he said suddenly. "I know I've probably worried you lately." I smiled, patting his shoulder. "You're my son, Adrian. No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." He smiled back, and I saw a sense of relief in his eyes. Though the journey hadn't been easy, I knew our bond as mother and son remained strong. That night, for the first time in a while, I slept peacefully, reassured that we would find a way to keep our relationship harmonious, no matter what the future held.